Look, you can't change the next 4 years if you simply continue George Bush's shoot first and ask questions later foreign policy. And you can't change, folks, you can't change the next 4 years if you believe that we should continue to spend $10 billion a month in Iraq when the Iraqis have a $79 billion surplus. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, to quote the elder Bush, the first President Bush, read my lips, we will end this war. We will end this war. We will transfer responsibility to the Iraqis. Enough is enough. Folks, you can't change the lives of the middle class when there's absolutely no difference, none, between what George Bush has already done and what you're proposing to do. To paraphrase a good friend of mine, a great new senator from my birth town of Scranton, Pennsylvania, his name is Bob Casey, the senator from Pennsylvania. He said, and I wish I'd thought of this first, but he had said, you can't call yourself a maverick if all you've been is a sidekick. Folks, that's why you're seeing John McCain's campaign become so erratic, relying on political stunts instead of offering sound solutions. Look at how John responded to the current economic crisis. At 9 a.m. on Monday morning, September 15th, when the bottom started to fall out of the market, John McCain said at 9 o'clock that morning, he said, the fundamentals of the economy are strong. At 11 a.m. that morning, he said, quote, there is a great economic crisis we have on our hands, paraphrasing it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we Catholics call an epiphany. Folks, the irony is, the whole notion of what the fundamental responsibility of a president is to provide steady leadership in times of challenge. And lurching from one view to another in a matter of hours is not what presidents do. In those 2 hours, did John McCain realize that the median income of American families had dropped over $2,000 the past 8 years? Did all of a sudden John realize that here in New Hampshire, you folks have lost over 26,000 manufacturing jobs in the last 8 years? Did John figure out in those 2 hours that the premiums you pay for your health insurance have doubled in the last 8 years? Did he realize in that 2-hour span that this economic crisis is the final verdict on the failure of George Bush's economic policy? What happened? What happened? What happened? Well, the problem with John's epiphany is not that he saw the light. John saw the presidency receding from his grasp. That's what John saw happening. That's what John saw happening. And now, look, I know John spent a lot of time here in New Hampshire. John is fond of calling this his second home. He's even called it his second state. The problem is that just in the past quarter, 1,400 folks in New Hampshire have lost their homes. 1,400. Thousands more. Many people you know are living on the verge of whether or not they're going to lose their home. The financial crisis has now wiped out $2 trillion in people's retirement funds from their 401k plans and other investments. People are worried. Some of them have been angry. And guess what? They have every right to be. They have every single right to be. But here's what I want to emphasize to you today. And we can't lose sight of this. This is what Barack and I believe, or we would not be running. We've been through tough times before, folks. We've been through difficult times before as a nation. And in every circumstance, we've emerged from these tough times, not only intact, but stronger, every single time. And the Obama-Biden administration is going to pull together the leaders of both political parties. Why? Because we have a long history of actually doing it. actually do, not talking about it, actually doing it. And because we understand the value of international relationships, we're going to provide the necessary leadership internationally to get other nations to follow. Ladies and gentlemen, I once said to President Bush, he said, well, Joe, I'm leading. I said, Mr. President, with all due respect, turn around. No one's following. No one's following. Folks, you got to have people follow in order to be a leader. And I really mean this. It's a kind of a big, I'm joking about it a little bit, but it's a big deal. Just straight assertions is not leadership. And where are we today? We've all figured it out, and the president has figured it out. There's a need for the international community in this global economy to come up with a common approach how to deal with this economic crisis. It's not just talk, it's a reality. You see the markets are moving again today. They're doing better. They're bouncing back a little bit. Why? Because of international cooperation, what the banks in England are doing and what we're doing. So folks, look, you need international leadership, and it can only come from one place, the President of the United States of America. And it can only come, quite frankly, in my view, obviously, from Barack Obama. So folks, look, here's the point I want to make. None of this is beyond our capability. None of this is beyond our capacity. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the tools to resolve the crisis. These tools are available. We know how to use them. The real fundamental question for practical Yankee traders like you all up here, very simple. I really mean it. You know, I try to cut this stuff down to not dumb it down, just get down to the matter. What is the essence of the matter? The essence of the matter here is, in whose hands are we going to put these tools? In whose hands are we going to put the tools to put this country back together? One of the great advantages John McCain had at the front end of this campaign, because he is a war hero. He truly is and was a war hero. He deserves our great respect. But we need more than a war hero. We need more than a great soldier. We need a wise leader. And people assume because he had been a great soldier that he had certain hands, that John, in the moment of crisis, would know what to do. Well, ladies and gentlemen, John's hands have been anything but certain the last year. They've been uncertain. And the McCain administration would be uncertain, clinging to the past, lurching from one bad idea to another. You know, Sarah Palin turned to me in the debate and she said, well, you know, I was in second grade when Joe Biden was elected to the Senate at 29. I was inclined, I was almost tempted to say, you were in sixth grade the last time John McCain had a good idea. I guess, you know, he's a great guy, but look at the ideas. So folks, this really is, in a New England sense, it's about a steady hand. It really is about a steady hand and good ideas. Because this is not beyond our capacity. This is not beyond our capacity to turn this country around. And ladies and gentlemen, Barack Obama has steady hands. Look what he's done. Obama's put together the finest economic team this country has ever seen. Both parties, Republicans and Democrats, former Republican secretaries of the Treasury, former Republican advisors of the presidents, Democratic advisors, the best minds. He didn't go out there and decide, what's your blood type, tell me your party. He gathered the best minds in the country. And in an Obama-Biden administration, we know, it's hard to get used to. I got it. I'm used to it. I got it. We got this thing the right way. These are some of my old buddies over here from the shipyard. They were kind of with me, and but we're together. We're together.